before I start drawing out the picture, the scene that we're going to do, we'll just have a little look at it. Okay, it's a painting I did a few years back. I took a print from it just on the computer, and it's got lots of different elements in there that will help you as watercolour artists kind of develop your skills. We can start off with a simple sky, okay, depicting some clouds. We can learn about the fact that colours in the distance are cooler than those in the foreground, so we'll be painting the distant land mass there in a cooler shade of blue. We've got what was a boat shed here, a little building here. We've got various posts and masts and all sorts of things sticking up throughout, so we'll be using some dry brush technique to do that. We'll also be getting that illusion that we want to create of wet sand and little rocks and bits of seaweed and stuff like that on there. And of course there's the boats. We'll be having a go at actually painting, drawing in the boats. Lemon yellow, we're going to use lemon yellow there, a little pool of lemon yellow we'll put in there. Make sure you've got plenty of clean water, don't use mucky water. If you use water that looks black, you're going to have paintings that look dull because it will affect you. The idea is you keep your colours as fresh as you can. So I often have two pots of water, one to take off the first amount of paint, the paint, and then just to rinse the brush in the second one. Okay, so there we've got our yellow. So now we'll have our cobalt blue. So I'll put a mix of cobalt blue in that palette. Don't be too skimpy with the paint because there's nothing worse than running out of a wash of colour halfway through and you're doing a piece of the band. You've got to quickly sort of try and mix up more paint. That can be quite annoying. It can be quite annoying. So there we go. So we got a cobalt blue. Now we'll go for our cadmium red. So we've got three primary colours there: cobalt blue, cadmium red and lemon yellow. Now for our sky we're going to put all three colours. Okay, right then. So I've got my mister bottle, as I just explained, and I'm going to spray. It's really fine, I don't think you can see that, but very fine mist. Okay, I'm going to start off with a reasonably big brush. It's a number 3 Isobay mop brush, but you could use something similar. Okay, and I'm going to start off with some cobalt blue. Let me bring the palette over. Some cobalt blue. And I'm just going to put the tip of the brush in the cadmium red just to grey the blue slightly. So it's cobalt blue and just a touch in, just lifting a little bit of paint out. Remember, cadmium red's a very strong colour, but it just takes the edge off the blue a little bit, greys it out slightly, makes it a bit more sort of, dulls it down a little bit. And then I'm going to use the edge of my brush, this part here, to paint the first part of the sky. So I'm just drawing the brush down to the edge of the piece of paper, just to sort of make that little bit of cloud shape. I might add a little bit more water to that. See, you can go back and then I'm going to rinse the brush, and I'm just going to soften the edge of those clouds a little bit with the side of the brush, lifting out some of the colour. Then I'm going to use a little bit of cadmium red and a little bit of lemon yellow, just to make a warm yellow colour, and I'm just going to use that to help me sort of look at the I'm just using my brush to come around, pushing down on the brush on the paper. Right, now we've got to put a bit more blue in. Because we're limited with colours, I'd probably be using different blues, but for this exercise it's fine. When I actually painted this painting the first time, I used lots of different colours in the first painting, as you can see. But what we want to do is we want to see what we can achieve just using 3 colours. That's the actual. Now I'm mixing a little bit more cadmium red in the cobalt blue as I get down to the bottom, just to make some more interesting cloud shapes. Just using the brush any way you like, really, just to get some broken texture, get that nice warmth. So basically I'm just using the 3 colours in this sky. I'm just using cobalt blue, a touch of cadmium red and lemon yellow, and over that and that. And then we've got our water down here, so we're just going to go over the water too and put a bit more blue in it for that. And I'm working my way down the page. I'll put a little bit more cobalt blue on my brush to make the cobalt blue mix a bit stronger. A little bit of cadmium red again. I'm just going to go in here to make these cloud shapes stand out a bit more. Around the boats. Just painting carefully around the boats with cobalt blue. In between. Remember, I want to keep the boats white. Okay, so now I'm painting the sand area, and I'm just using yellow with a touch of red in it, and just a little touch of blue, just to dull it down a bit. And I'm slowly working my way down the page. Now, to get that illusion of lovely wet sand, I'm just adding some cobalt blue, and I'm letting the washes drift into each other. And by doing that, you get nice soft edges, and it helps to create that illusion of wet sand. Just going over the hull of the boats, it doesn't matter there because they'll be much darker in colour later. So just carrying on with the wash of yellow and red down to the bottom of the page, just carrying the mixture down. What we want to do before this dries now is start adding some darker mixes of the same colours into this wash, just so they bleed out together and you get that nice diffused edge. And again, that helps to create the illusion of wet sand. So I'm just here adding sort of various mixtures of warm and cool browns, just to add some interest, and going across the hull of the boats and letting it sort of bleed into that cobalt blue. So the timing is crucial when you do these things. If you let dry too much, it won't work. So you've got to do it immediately. You've got to look for the right time on the paper, ideally when the sheen's gone, just so you get that control of the bleeding. Okay, now we've added various mixtures of cobalt blue, lemon yellow and a touch of cadmium red. Gave us these lovely browns, various browns, cool browns, warm browns, reddish browns through here. We've got the cobalt blue running through here with these colours bleeding into it, so you get that lovely wet effect that we want on the sand. And basically, because we've just used 3 colours in this painting, it makes it look very harmonious. The colours that are in the sky are the same colours that are in the sand and the land, and that's what you want to do. You want to aim to reflect the colours in your sky. It's the same sorts of colour mixes in your land. Same on roofs of houses, slate roofs. That bring the same colours in that you use in the skies. Maybe slightly darker mixes, warmer mixes, whatever. But you try and sort of keep the colours together. But I think this is a useful exercise. It's showing us what we can achieve here, like we did with the landscape I put on yesterday. We're using the three primary colours, different ones, but we're using 3 primary colours here, and we're getting a nice beach scene. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray the paper because I want to diffuse the top a little bit. I don't want it to look too hard through here, so I'm just going to soften just by spraying the paper. I'll just soften the actual top. Now I could go along and just put a little line of water, clear water through there, but this time I think I'll just use the mister bottle like that. Get my cobalt blue, cadmium red, too much cobalt blue, and I'll just drop it in like so. And this is going to give us and in places I'm just going to warm it up slightly, add a little bit more red just to vary it so it's not the same colour throughout. There we've got our landmass through there. And just by spraying that little bit of water, it's just softened it up slightly in places. Okay, sorry about that. My battery ran out on the camera while I was just painting that little building, and I had to carry on because I couldn't really stop. But basically that was just various mixtures of cobalt blue, cadmium red and lemon yellow. I used cobalt blue on the roof with some cadmium red and a touch of lemon yellow, and for the bottom part here I just used kind of equal mixtures, maybe a bit more yellow and a bit more red than blue for the underneath side of the building. But yeah, pretty straightforward that bit really, so you didn't miss much. Now we're going to go on and we're going to put in the grass at the top here, and for that I'm just going to use, what are we going to use? Lemon yellow, cobalt blue. I'm just going to warm it slightly with a touch of cadmium red. So just using the same 3 colours all the time, just to touch those grasses in. I'm just using the side of the brush, just slowly, and in places I'm just going to put a bit more blue, just down here, then reintroduce more green just to keep it varied. And that's going to be that really. Soften the top edge a little bit, it's a bit more merged. Just there we go, and that's that done. So again, still using the same 3 colours, and we'll just let that dry. Make sure. There we go. Now what we want to do is just put another wash over this sand here. See, the lemon yellow and the cadmium red made a great colour for sand. So, I often use, if it's in my palette, I'll use Naples yellow for sand, but lemon yellow and cadmium red, really, really useful colours. you know, you can do all your greens with the lemon yellow, but don't forget you have to dull it down with a bit of blue. If you didn't, it would just be too bright. So your bright is going to it's kind of making it browner when you add the blue. So basically we're just doing varied washes over the sand here to give it a bit more interest. Different colours. That'll do. Now we'll go back into the building, and it's using kind of equal parts really, just to darken that side. So that's just a dark mixture of the three colours. And then we'll look at this area here. We want to add some text. Actually, let's go and have a look at the boats. We'll paint in the boats now. For the bit that sits under the water, what they call the anti-fouling, for that I'm just going to use cadmium, well, red and yellow. Let's just call it red and yellow now. It's quicker and easier. We know what colours it is. And just to dull it down a little, more red in this, because usually anti-fouling is a nice red colour. And then in places I'll just add some blue. So I'm just putting that in the side of the brush. And in place, mix up some blue. Okay, so now I'm just dropping a little bit more cadmium red in there. It's not quite red enough for my liking. There we go. And now I'm just going to sort of think about the shadow, not the shadow so much, the reflection of the boat in the water on the wet sand. So I'm just using the brush, the side of the brush, and as it comes further away from the boat, I'm adding more blue. Grey it out a bit. Just for the reflection. We'll just change it slightly, so we'll go a bit more blue in the mixture this time, just to keep it varied. See, when you're only using three colours, it's so much simpler to paint because you've got less decisions to make. You just, you know, you just don't have that stress of keep looking at your palette. So, a bit more red. Maybe a bit more yellow just to keep it interesting. Got the rudder. All the builders are working outside today. And a bit more, we're going to go back into this for a bit more blue. Just before it dries. Just looking back. This is where you've got to make some, with watercolour, you've got to be able to make decisions quite quickly on what you're doing. Right, let's put the reflection in now, sort of in the wet sand. There we go. Let's just go in and we'll just drop that in. Same with this one. And we'll just soften that a little bit once we've done it. There we go. Just gonna put the old, what they call the gunnel on the boat. Well, I think that's what they call it on a sailing boat. And for the cabin area, we'll just lighten that mixture up again. So we're using the same colours, and I'm just going to add more yellow to it and a bit more red. It's not too wipe the brush of it. And this is the cabin on this boat. There we go. And now we'll do the sail. We'll have a nice red sail cover. And what I do is just drop a little bit of blue in that, just to give it interest. There we go. Now, while that's all wet, I'll get my rigger. Make a dark mixture up using all three colours. I'm just going to go back into it, just adding some shadow areas underneath. So basically I've just got all three colours on there to make the darkest mix I can. Slightly more blue, so it's nice and cool. And you know, if you wanted to, you could put that tiller in at the same time. Put some details in. I'm just not going to mess about with it. I'm just going to paint it in simply. And then I'm going to go right over this area. And then as that dries, I'm going to come back in with a darker wash just to suggest the area inside. Because you're looking at it from there. It's just like a canopy that comes over and clips onto the boom on the boat. The boom on the boat. Sounds good. Okay, just going back into this area on that mast. So it's constantly looking at your picture and thinking, you know, don't just do it once and think, well, that's it. You're totally constantly looking to see, well, can you make it a little bit more interesting? Can you add a little bit more value? And because that's what the viewer wants. You know. They want it to look interesting. And that's what we're doing. Right, we'll let that dry for a minute and we'll just have a little look at these posts here. So these are going to be quite dark. A bit more yellow because I want it to go a bit browny colour, a bit more red than blue. So it's a kind of dark browny mix. It's worthwhile just practicing on a spare piece of paper, just to see what you can get out of these colours, because you'll be surprised how many different colours you can get. I'm using like a dry brush on this now, so it's kind of it's a broken stroke, it's not a solid stroke. You're getting a little bit of what I think, what people call sparkle in it, where we can. And then we want to put the reflections in of these posts. A bit more blue maybe. And we're just skipping the brush over the paper. We're not doing that much work really. We're just letting the brush skip over the paper. Right. Now we've got these little posts in the distance here, which I want to warm those up a little bit for some reason. I'm just going to put those in. Again, that's a nice dry brush effect on these. Don't paint them in. You don't want much water on the brush. You want to keep it quite light, quite dark, but quite light at the same time. A light touch, so you get that nice broken effect. Put the other post. And I'm just going to paint inside here, but by doing that I'm getting a soft edge on there. It's kind of lifted there as well. There we go. And that's as simple as it can get. Then I'm just going to use some dry brush technique. So I'm making a dark brown out of the same three colours, and where the posts are, I'm just using a very little bit of paint on the brush, and I'm just, I hope you can see that, just dragging it across the page. to get a nice, very lightly, just to get a nice broken effect. Now I'm going to go to a bigger brush for down here. See, that's too wet. You see, that would have been pointless if I did that. So I've got to have more blue, more red, more yellow to make that brown again. Now we're going to just try and skip the brush across the page to get a nice broken effect. Like that. Yeah. And then what we want to do up here is do a lighter version. Dry your brush out a little bit more blue maybe to too bit dry. Sometimes it's very hard to find exactly what you want. Just little stones. I'm just literally touching the paper. Here and there to describe little stones. I'm not trying to paint everyone in. I'm just now where they are by the water, what I always like to do is then just put a lighter colour on, like a bit of blue or something, and just cast a little bit of a reflection. Soften the edges a little bit. There we go. That's it. So I'm just using the rigger brush to just drop in that. There we go. Okay, so I've just lightly put the masts in on the boat. Now I'm just going to put a couple of washes over some of the water. A little bit of blue just across here. Using that broken brush stroke again, just to soften that in. It kind of cushions it. It makes it sit back a little bit. Some of the detail. Again, a little bit of shadow just there. Just there. Okay. And over the water. That's it. Okay, I think that's about it really. Could have made a better job of the masts, but they're alright. Don't fiddle too much. Okay, there we go. All finished. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.